So we were just talking about, if you don't mind going over that, not the whole, not the what we discussed exactly, but in terms of the MMA, different rules that you guys can't wear contact lenses. So now you have to get surgery, but you can't get surgery because of the quarantine and all that shit. So you mind going over that? Like,
Yeah. So if you're a professional fighter, now it varies state to state. I was originally looking at just Pennsylvania because if I'm making a local debut, it's most likely going to be like Pennsylvania or New Jersey. So professional medical requirements, like the physical and stuff, all normal. But when you go from amateur to pro, they add an extra level into the medicals regarding your eyes.
mm-hmm.
Um, in Pennsylvania, they will allow you to wear contacts. However, without your contacts, your vision has to be 2200. Now, that 2200 goes across, I think, the entire US as far as like your minimum vision. So even if a state doesn't allow you to wear contacts, you have to meet that vision requirement no matter what.
I don't. So what is 2200? Because I don't understand 2020 and all that. What is that?
So with the 2200, it's like basically you can like if you're thinking of like an eye chart, you're able to read the larger letters. Like you could read the E, and I think it's like the first two lines or so. Pretty like your vision's pretty bad at that point, but it's whatever their minimum. However, I don't know how they determine that minimum requirement. So when I put in, I found like a little calculator thing online, and when I put in what my contact prescription was, it put me in like the 2400 range.
Okay.
So like I know my like if I'm looking at an eye chart, I can't read the E. Like that's how bad my vision is.
All right.
So with my contacts in, I have perfect vision, and I've never, you know, I haven't had any major issues with wearing contacts while training. In two of my fights, a contact has popped out.
Oh wow.
First fight, it was the second round, and I actually saw it like pop out of my eye. Briefly thinking, "Oh shit! I hope the other one doesn't fall out because then I'll be blind." And that was my right eye. So like I noticed it more because that's where like I'm more right eye dominant. And then
Yeah.
in my third fight, I didn't even realize until after the fight was over and we were walking back towards like the locker room area. And I started at first I thought it was just out of focus because I side note I have an astigmatism, so my contacts are weighted. So if they
Okay.
go out, like if the weight shifts or moves, they go out of focus
Okay.
and then they'll settle back in. So I thought that's what was happening. And then I'm squinting and like looking, I was like, oh, and I touched my eye. I'm like, oh, no, I just lost contact. But it
Right.
didn't affect me as much because it was the left eye this time.
Right.
So, I mean, even with losing one, it didn't affect my performance. But I guess they're worried about if both of them pop
Yeah.
out or, at a professional level, in theory, you're hitting harder, people are moving around faster, it's a lot more technical and things like that. So like, I understand it just kind of sucks. So I started looking into, what kind of corrective surgeries I could do. LASIK is not preferred because it creates when they whatever they do with the laser, they create like a flap, and if you were to get poked in the eye, it could disrupt that and basically screw everything up.
Oh man. Yeah.
Some commissions, I think like it's Ohio, New York, and a couple others, if you have LASIK, they won't license you or let you fight in that state. However, there's actually an older surgery that predates LASIK. It's called PRK, some really long name. But basically, with that, is they take the laser and they shave the cornea and reshape it for your vision.
Hmm.
So, where LASIK, your recovery period is like 2 or 3 days, PRK is going to take about 7 to 10 up to 14 days to fully like recover, with
Right.
your vision changing a little bit throughout the next couple of weeks. PRK, because there's no flap or anything like that, states will allow you to compete, and a lot of fighters now have been choosing that. I met Joe Schilling last April, and he had just gotten it done. And he was just getting back into training, I think, at that point. He really liked it. The only downside to it is I have not, for the life of me, been able to find anything that says, you know, you're going to recover for 3 months and then you can return to competition, or you can recover in 6 months and return to competition. It just says, oh, you have a 2-week healing period.
Yeah, that's
What? Okay,
vague
so
information.
yeah, so I'm hoping that by next week when I go in for my consultation, which is also why I'm wearing my glasses, when I go in next Wednesday, they'll be able to say, hey, you know, this is kind of the layout of the surgery, which only takes 10 minutes, which is cool. And then, you know, I can go on and heal from there. So at least after like the first week, you definitely can't do any sort of exercising, running, weightlifting, because you don't want to put like extra pressure on the eye. And the first week they have like a hard contact that stays in there. But after that first week, and you don't want to get the sweat or anything in there. After the first week, then I guess you can start slowly kind of getting back into things. And I've read some like Reddit threads and stuff like that. Like some people, there's a guy that does jujitsu, and I was like, oh, I'm going to read his thread. And apparently, once he was cleared to go, his first roll, someone poked him in the eye and like tore through fresh, like, you know, the heel, whatever.
Yeah, shit happens. Yeah.
So I think to play it safe, like as I start to like return to some contact, I'm gonna get like the sports goggles, but without a prescription.
Okay.
That's my biggest fear, is if I get poked in the eye while it's healing and then it sets me back.
Yeah.
Because last week there was a matchmaker that I'm friends with on Facebook who was looking to update her scouting list for Invicta.
Mm-hmm.
I sent her my info, and she said that she's forwarding on to Shannon Knapp. So fingers crossed for, you know, my info getting over there. So I want to get this done as soon as possible, and then, you know, get on the road to a pro debut.
Yeah, that'll be awesome to see that. I don't want to go off of the LASIK thing. So you're getting, because I'm trying to understand the LASIK and you said the other one. I forget.
So I'm going to get, most likely, I mean, I still have to confirm with the surgeon and make sure that's the right choice for me.
Yeah.
But pay is preferred for any sort of contact sport athlete, combat athlete. And when I talked to the surgery consult, she knew exactly what I was talking about. When I started explaining why I wanted it, she goes, oh yeah, boxers, MMA fighters, like this is typically what's preferred, but we'll have a couple of options with you. And it's just because there's no fold, it's just they shave it, so there's no there's really nothing that's gonna, you know, come undone if I got poked in the eye, which they're even starting to say that they're starting to recommend that to most people anyways, just in case you do get poked in the eye or poke yourself in the eye. You don't want to, you know, screw all that up.
Right. So. I'm like curious how many MMA fighters had that surgery done, just so you can see their progress or see how it affected them, and if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I was trying to find, and that's like when I was trying to, you know, go on and do like a Google search and stuff. It was hard to find.
Yeah.
But I found a couple out in California. Some were people like I recognize Joe Schilling, but they who fights for Bellator. Then they had a list of a couple other guys who I wasn't as familiar with. Had gone to the same doctor. And then there was a couple somewhere down south. So it looks like there's been enough. And, you know, the one, I forget what her name was. There was a UFC fighter from a couple of years ago who had it done after Nevada told her she couldn't wear contacts in a fight. She wrote a testimonial for that particular doctor.
Right.
And she was able to continue fighting after that, it said. So I imagine, because like I've seen other fighters wear like their glasses to weigh-ins, but then they don't, obviously they can't wear them in the fight. So it's, like, are they wearing contacts at that point? Do they just need the glasses to kind of, you know, crisp up the vision? Or if you're like me and I'm legally blind without glasses. So
right. And you couldn't wear those goggles either, right?
No. Like I think they allow that in like different jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Okay.
They would never allow it. With MMA, with the punches and stuff, there's no way.
Yeah. Huh. This is interesting. I never. That's what I'm trying to think of. The only person I know of is Michael Bisping. He's
So
on, but he didn't have. Yeah, go ahead. You can.
so funny thing about that. So I've been listening to his audiobook,
Mhm.
which is actually really good, by the way. I'm almost done it. And when he was talking about the issues with his eye, because I think his retina was detached twice
Yeah, something
or
like that.
something
I
like
don't
that.
know, but yeah.
And after like the second time, he was talking about like the really long healing period, and he was talking about that 2200 thing with the vision. I'm like, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, like I don't think my vision's that bad. I'm like, I should be fine.
Right.
But when I finally like looked into it, and the reason I looked into it is there were rumors that they were going to bring in the UFC for a Wednesday night event up in like the Poconos or something.
Mm.
And I was like, who knows? We could play. Not saying I'd be drafted out there. I'm like, let's look and see what the medical requirements are to go pro. I'm like, that's been on the back of my mind since quarantine's kind of screwed up a lot of potential fight plans for me, which is why we're kind of making that jump now or whenever things reopen. And that's what led me to the looking at the medicals and stuff for Pennsylvania. And I saw that, and then I looked up to see what my prescription translated to, and realized that we don't meet that site requirement at all.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and Bisping's is weird, especially because like he detached his retina and they put like oil in his eye. That's why if you look at it, it like looks like
It
weird.
looks off. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, it was crazy what he went through to get it healed, and how long the process was, because he was doing like these weekly like 3 hour long trips up to the specialist to have his eye checked out, and kept being told, no, you can't even go like work out or anything. And then he ended up having his regular doctor wasn't in, and the guy that saw him was like, oh yeah, like there's no reason that you can't start like going back to exercising and seeing how you feel and going back to fighting within a couple more weeks. And just by having that other doctor there saved his career at that point.
Right. Yeah. It's just that I think about all that shit, like the fighters getting poked in the eye, or just like losing your eye. It's just like holy shit. That's just like your eye is so fragile.
Or when Kat Zingano got kicked in the eye.
Oh, with the toe, she got toed in the eye,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
yeah, the toe went in her eye, and it,
Oh my
it
god.
cut her eyelid.
Yeah. And there was something controversial about that, right? Because they kept the fight going or something. I forget.
They let the fight go. So like normally if you get poked in the eye, they they'll give you like a break, and then they'll talk to you, and then they might bring a doctor in and do a quick check, like, do you want to continue fighting? Can you continue fighting? But because it was a kick and it was a toe,
Hmm.
it's not an eye poke, so to speak.
Yeah.
And even Megan, like if you watch the fight, Megan stops because she realizes like it got her in the eye,
Yeah.
and then the ref, tells him keep going, so she had to go in.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Like like your fucking toes as an eye poke. I mean, it was an accident, but someone can purposely poke someone in the eye with their toe if they're, you know what I mean? Especially
It's
martial artists, but
so when it comes to things like eye pokes and like low shots, I
yeah.
kind of lump them kind of into the same category of, if the ref doesn't see it, you have to continue fighting.
Oh yeah, of course.
So let's talk about we'll switch it a little bit. So if a guy gets a low kick,
Mhm.
almost every time the ref will then see it, and
Mhm.
they get their break, and whatever. I was in a fight where I got kneed very low,
Whew.
and that never got caught, because I feel like you don't think about that with women.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the commentary is like, oh, they were talking about how my opponent landed a good shot. I was like, no, it was low and it hurt. It hurts us too. Um, so it's one of those things, like, even though it happened, it's not like I stopped and was like, did you not see that? Like
You have to keep defending
you have to
yourself and
keep
fight.
fighting.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you watched the fights, not last Saturday, but the Saturday before, when Cowboy fought Pettis.
Yes.
At the very end of that round, or that third round, he got poked in the eye, and like, but the ref didn't stop it. He had to keep fighting.
Right.
And like, it sucks, but if the ref doesn't see it, or the ref doesn't call it,
Yeah.
especially with with the way that it was a kick,
Or- Yeah.
it's so hard to say what that, because Megan's so tall, like a lot of people I don't think would have had that kind of accuracy to land a toe into the eye.
Yeah. I mean, I just forget that was a while ago. That was I don't know if that wasn't this year, right? It was last year.
No, that was
Yeah,
last.
last year.
It was last year. I want to say it was probably like last spring because I think that was the last time Kat Zingano fought because she got released not too long after by the UFC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're way better at following shit and remembering these things than than I could, because I forgot all
I,
about that.
I'm on social media too much.
Yeah,
I like tracking,
yeah,
the women's MMA. I mean, that's always going to be,
yeah. I mean,
there's
this is
a fight on. I'm going to watch that.
right. I would be a bad, because I love MMA, I love UFC and everything, but I'm not good at like me and my wife. We watch fights and then we'll record a podcast when we do, and our own podcast, and we talk about the fights. But I always forget. Like, it's the night after, and I'll forget the fights. I'm like, wait, who? What happened again exactly? I forget specifics because I don't write notes down. I guess that's what people do.
And
But
they're so like, honestly, one of the reasons I will only watch fights if there's a particular fighter I'm looking for or trying, to support where I'll stay up. But otherwise, these fights are too late. Like I fear the
oh yeah,
day that if I ever make it to like the big scene and I'm on some card where I don't get to fight till 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm like that's way past my bedtime.
are you
Like
gonna be one?
I'm gonna have to train myself to stay up later for
Yeah,
stuff like that.
are you gonna be one of those fighters that that naps before the fight?
No, I can't do that because I've seen that even on like the regional scene because like you have to get there so early. Like you, depending on the state, you might get there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're not going to fight till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
Like I've seen guys where they go and they nap. I think Henzo Gracie was one of the guys. He would go and sleep, and they would just wake him up right before he fought.
Yeah, I heard.
I can't do that. Like my not so much nerves. It's kind of like a mixture of like nerves and excitement.
Hmm.
Like I'll hang out and like I'll relax and play on my phone or like me and my corners and stuff will joke around for a little bit, but like I know it's time to go work in a little bit. Like I can't sleep like that. So I usually will on fight day I'll sleep in a little bit. I won't set an alarm, and just whenever my body wakes up, that's when I get up and you know start the fight day prep.
So when you that's now we can talk about it. Actually, I'm actually curious about that. Don't on the fight day. Can you like briefly go over what you do during your day to get ready for that fight and that day? Like, I'm just trying to go into the mindset, like, because I haven't fought yet and I want to, but now I don't know. I don't know what's going on in my body. So it's like my shoulder. I'm scared to
Yeah.
it's gonna give out again. I'm healed now with this quarantine, so I can finally throw punches with this left
Mhm.
shoulder, but I'm scared that it's fucking fragile, so I don't want it to go out again. But anyway, could you go through the process briefly, like what your day is like before you get to the date of your fight? Like,
So
what do you say you just let your body wake up
yeah,
when it
so
does?
if I'm fighting like for the fights that I fought in Pennsylvania, what I'll do is because I get to sleep in my own bed, it makes it a little bit easier. Um, so usually, the night before we do weigh-ins, and then I always it's gonna sound awful, but my post weigh-in meal is always at Longhorn Steakhouse, and we've
Okay.
lucked that we've always been close to there because I know exactly what's on the menu, and it's whatever I'm going to eat because I still stick to generally speaking my diet
Mm.
until after I fight because my body's not used to eating junk, so I'm not going to fill it up with junk the night before. Like I've seen some people eating pizza and fries and a bunch of greasy food, and I can't do that. Um, so I'll let myself. I get to bed normal time. Um, wake up whenever my body's ready, which usually is usually around like 8 or 8:30. Because part of it too is like I'm excited, so I can't sleep. So it's like a kid on Christmas where I wake up early
Right.
without really meaning to. Um, so if I'm fighting locally, then I'll get up, eat, normal breakfast stuff, move around, stretch a lot, might do like some like light shadow boxing just to kind of, wake my body up. Then I'll go and get my hair braided for the day. Um, And usually because of the post weigh-in food, because now I'm not, I'm still sticking to eating good foods and foods that are going to fuel me, but I'm eating more of them. It really spurs my metabolism. So fight day, I'm constantly eating. So every 2 hours, I'm eating like a snack or another meal. Um, so I'll go get my hair done, eat a snack, go get lunch. Um, and then usually once my hair's done, the gym and then the corners night, we'll all drive up together to wherever the venue's at. So I'll get there, check, continue stretching, some shadow boxing. And then once we get to the venue, you do a check-in. If in Pennsylvania, they do all their medical checks like with the doctor the day before, so you don't have to worry about that. And then once we get checked in, figure out what your placement on the card is if you don't know already. My second fight, I was the first fight of the night, which was cool because then I got to watch all the other fights afterwards. If I'm fighting, on the fifth fight of the night, I won't watch the fights before then. Like it's just
You need to focus.
fighting's very selfish. I'm thinking about me.
Right.
So I won't watch the other fights. So with that one, I was able to watch the fights after, which was pretty cool. That and it's like, okay, you got in there, you got it done, and now you get to relax the rest of the time. So once we got in there and like I'm just thinking of my second fight in particular because we were at a casino where they had us in the locker rooms was a ridiculously small space. Because like if you think of when you go to a casino or like a theater or something, you go to like will call and there's like that little like area where the person's behind giving you tickets. So that's where you had to warm up, was that little area. And then they had a little room with a curtain behind that where you threw in like 10 other people. So we were all on top of each other. And then because I was the first fight, we were trying to wrap my hands as soon as we got settled in there. So we're at the rules meeting. They call, both corners in. I have one hand, out here. My coach is continuing to wrap while we're listening to the rules meeting. And with that, I had enough time to warm up. No problem there, but it just felt very like rushed. With my first fight, I think I was like the fifth or sixth fight. So I was super amped up with it. So I had a longer warm up. For my last couple of fights, I've been in Virginia. So I follow basically the same schedule. Like because I'm at a hotel, we'll wake up, go out, go find somewhere for breakfast, nothing crazy. Again, I'm not trying to like weigh myself down with, junk food. That's for the next day. And same thing. And then I go back, I relax for a little bit, try to stretch out and do yoga just to keep loose. I don't want to get myself too tight or too stressed.
Right.
And then I think in Virginia, we had to meet at the venue at like 2 p.m. But they do all like the medical checks then. So the doctor checks you out. You do all that. And then the last fight, we waited around for a little bit. So the nice thing is we were on kind of like we were in like an indoor like rec center. So they had like a turf field, which was probably by far the best spot to be able to warm up, was on our turf field. Because you actually had something soft to, move around on. So, yeah. And then I'm usually eating a little bit, and then I usually cut food off about an hour or two, probably like an hour and a half before I fight, just so I get everything digested. I usually try to get a little bit of extra like carbs or sugar just for that fast, sugars for when you're working out.
Right.
And then do normal warm up. I tend to do I won't say a long warm up, but it's longer, I think, than most people. But I do like long and slow, and just kind of helps kind of shake off any, nerves or extra excitement that I have, and then let myself rest for a little bit. Then I go back and do it again. And then they usually kind of will give you a call, 15, 20 minutes before you're ready to go out. And then I'll just kind of pace for a while. And then it's fight time.
Nice. Do you have, when you going through your emotions, that's why I'm always fascinated about these pre-competition emotions. I mean, I've experienced it. I know everyone experiences, but everyone works differently, of course. Like for me, I get the most nervous. Like I had a jiu-jitsu competition. I wasn't nervous at all. I was chill. I was like, this is because I always go with the mindset of I want to have fun.
Mhm.
So I keep that in my mind, and that allows me to be calm. But then I'm always like, wait, some people work differently, so I need to play around with this. I found that me like sparring, and I know it's different than fighting. I haven't fought yet, but in terms of jiu-jitsu, I like to keep that mindset of play. If I keep that mindset of playing, I will be confident. I will be loose. Everything works for my benefit. Like I'm not gonna be nervous or anxiety and all that shit. It's not gonna take over me because I know I'm just having fun. I just remind myself. But for you, I'm just always curious because other people are different. Some people like to be amped. Some people like to stay calm. You know, some people are nervous and you use that nerve to get to use that power of nervousness to, you know, to use it as energy in terms of controlling the fight the way they want to. How do you use your emotions before your fight to bring it
So,
to the fight?
like for me, like with jujitsu and with fighting, I feel different because like if I'm doing like a grappling tournament, for me it's because while I focus on grappling and I like to grapple, for me it's not like in that number one spot like fighting is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a lower
Lower
just like
out.
it, yeah, like it's not as like it's not my priority, so like I feel like I can have more fun with it because I'm not worried, if I lose a jiu-jitsu match, I lose a jiu-jitsu match. It's whatever. There's no I don't keep a record of it. I know some people are like, "Oh, I'm, this and this in grappling." I'm like, I couldn't even tell you what my match record is with people.
Right.
Um like I have a little bit of nerves, but like I said, like jujitsu is different. And I haven't done a jujitsu tournament in, geez, at least a year and a half now. But the last one, I I went in and it was the first jujitsu tournament I had done since starting to fight. And I think that actually calmed me down more because I'm like, huh, well, I'm not going to get hit. Like,
Yeah.
if there's a submission, you get to tap in and it's done.
Right.
So like I didn't, I wasn't really worried about getting hurt. Um, so I went in there with the same kind of mentality of like when I fight, like I fight to win. Like,
Right.
like
Right.
I'm not trying to play patty cake. And so I think it surprised some of my opponents because I came out very, I don't know, more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but same thing, like with jiu-jitsu, like as soon as you grab the gi or you tie up or whatever, it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's like I'm not even thinking about it. With MMA, it's weird. So because you're training to fight a particular person, it's like the first fight, I didn't really know a whole lot about her because we were both debuts. So it's not like, oh, well, she's a striker or she's a grappler. Like you go in there blind for your first fight. So the best you can do is kind of research a gym and kind of find out, okay, they're more of a striking gym, they're more of a kickboxing gym. Um, so the game plan with that fight, and because you're always thinking about how, well, for us, you're constantly thinking about a game plan, you almost get hyper focused on it. So with that one, I wasn't nervous. I was just ready to go. That's the only way I know how to explain that is because my coach was like, I was, pacing around a lot. He's like, don't, calm down. How about you sit down so you don't wear yourself out? I'm like, I'm not, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Like, let's go fight. And, you know, because I've never done it before, it's like that idea of like little kids don't have fear because they don't have any previous experience to, base fear off of.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of the same thing there. And I've never been scared to fight. Not saying that I was. The second fight, my opponent had gotten switched with plenty of time. Um, but with that one, I felt because I was the first fight, and I felt a little bit rushed, but at the same time, I felt rushed, so I didn't really feel nervous. Um, so I felt ready to go. It was more of I had a winning record, but if you looked at her record, it wasn't that good. She had more experience. but it was kind of one of those, well, if I lose to her, then I feel like I look really bad, kind of a thing.
Right.
Um, and then because we noticed I watched a lot of her tape or her tapes. Um, the first couple of seconds of that fight, I kind of screwed myself because she didn't come out as we expected. Normally, she came out and she would like bum rush the person. Well, she didn't. She walked out, and I go, "Huh?
Hmm.
She's not running out." And in that, brief second, she was able to, land a really heavy punch. And then I spent the rest of the round, fighting off an armbar. So I learned from that.
Right.
Don't just go out and do what you're supposed to go do.
Yeah.
That's what kind of like going into the third fight was she actually, I felt like I went like back and forth of being like nervous or not, because I had a really weird fight camp. So it was one of those fight camps where I got sick like every other week. In the wintertime, I typically get a lot of like sinus infections and stuff like that. I had like 3 sinus infections. I had a stomach bug. I got everything. So like I was half worried about, my weight that I was cutting. So, which turned into during that fight, I didn't have as much energy as the previous fights because I had been so focused about the cut and just doing so much cardio and doing this, that, and the other, especially leading into fight week where normally, and I was fine. My weight was fine. I cut more naturally than cutting water, but I was so adamant of trying to, get all that weight down fight week that I kind of wore my body out some. And just the sparring that I had was kind of off and on. I didn't have good, consistent sparring in that camp. And for me, we spar a lot. We're not doing a crazy sparring. We're going to beat each other up. But that's a main, one of my main focuses is I spar, like 5 times a week, 6 times a week.
Right.
Varying degrees of that. But like, I feel like if I don't get to spar, like I feel like rusty. And I think that played a lot into having some nerves that fight, because I almost my thought is if I lose a fight, it's got to be because that person she bested me. I don't want to lose a fight because I didn't train hard enough.
Right.
Like I don't want to look back and go, well, we kind of screwed up there. That's on me, kind of a thing. So I kind of felt that because the girl that I fought, it was weird. Same height, same build. She went to Thailand that fight camp. I went to Thailand that fight camp. We were like, you couldn't get a more fair matchup than that fight. She was the first girl that was probably actually my actual weight class. The first 2 girls were significantly smaller than me. Probably, I know the one fights at 125 now, and the other girl probably should fight a little bit lower, but she was like 5'4", so like I had a huge reach advantage. So that was the other thing too. I'm like, I don't know what my strength is going to be like against her, because I'm used to being able to kind of steamroll people just because of my size. And then my corner was a little more, it was noticeable that he was nervous. And I was like, well, if he's nervous, should I be nervous? And that was kind of the thought going through my head. I'm like, if the captain of the ship is nervous, then I have something to be worried about. And I was like, you know what? There's nothing we can, and the thought I've had in my head was, you know what? There's nothing we can do about it now. If you get knocked out, it's not going to hurt because you lose conscious. Like, that's my thought on getting knocked out. Like, if it happens, you're not going to remember it. It might hurt the next day, but it is what it is. So I was like, you know what? We can't do anything about it now other than go out, do the game plan, and, trust ourselves. And it turned out fine. We won. The other thing, and then same thing with the last fight I had, it was, I knew I was ready to go. I felt really good. I, made the tweaks in my training that needed to be done. Had a good cut, and I was ready just to kind of go on. Like, I felt much more myself in the last time I fought, because I had the good camp. There's always one little hiccup within the camp that, make sure that I have the opponent whenever I have a really, really good camp. That's usually where the opponent either drops or something happens that I don't get to fight.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a good camp, and I was just ready to go out and get it done. Um, the other thing that helps me is my boss is a Navy vet, and he has different speeches that he gave to his unit and stuff like that. So each fight he makes a video for me. It's like a hype video,
Mm-hmm.
and it has just a really good message with it. And what I do is I have them in my warm up playlist, and they all build on each other. So I listen to them in order, and listening to those hype videos, it's relaxing. It hypes me up in a good way, and it just kind of gives me that extra little boost that I need. So I'll listen to those. He usually gives it to me, the newest one, on fight day. So I'll listen to it as I'm getting up in the morning. Um, and then I'll add it into my playlist. And then throughout the day, I'll kind of listen to them a little bit. But once we get to the venue, I'll run through the series, then listen to some music, and then run through them again. So I'll end up listening to the hype speeches probably like 4 or 5 times, but it's just a reminder of, you're ready to go out there and you're going to go get it done, kind of a thing. But he was like, I'm starting to run out. He goes, so originally he was only going to do them as I fought amateur,
Yeah.
and do them by request.
Yeah.
So I think I get one more, and then that's it. He's like, I'm starting to run out of material, but he will get, I can tell like what day he's like out filming, and he'll show me the bloopers, and they're great. But he'll be hoarse from just yelling, that drill sergeant comes back out in him, and you can hear him, hoarse the next day. I was like, you're filming my fight hype video, weren't you? He's like, yep.
Does he release that stuff on YouTube or anything?
It is on YouTube. I don't know I know I've posted it. If you go on like my old Facebook page, or my Facebook page, and scroll back,
Yeah.
I'll reshare it so anyone else can listen to it. And he does it on YouTube, but I think it's like that listed thing, so you have to have the special link to.
Okay. I was gonna say, because he could be like the next Jocko Willink or whatever.
His stuff is good, and it's like when I'm doing the water cut, I always write. The past couple of fights, I've been writing stuff in my water bottle, so I usually take, because each video has a theme to it, and I'll usually put either a quote or put the theme message on the water bottle. So as I'm drinking that, the couple gallons throughout the day, I'm reminding myself about it. But yeah, if you go on my Facebook page, you'll be able to find them, because we're tagged.
Tell him to fucking work on that, and maybe that might be his thing. I don't know what he does, but I'm always fascinated by these guys that release content on YouTube that motivate other people. Like Jocko Willink is the only guy I know, and David Goggins. Those two guys for me, and Joe Rogan, are the main guys that I hear and listen to. They fire me up. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So
I love David Goggins. Like I love listening to his book. Every once in a while I'll re-listen to the book just for an extra, kick in the ass while I'm running or something like that.
Yeah, they all have like key words that I remember that will remind me that, okay, like Joe Rogan, conquer your inner bitch.
Mm-hmm.
David Goggins, what is his stay hard,
Yeah, stay hard, and then
Jocko is I forget what he has, but
he has the get after it thing.
Get after it, yeah.
I mean, that's very much like a SEAL thing, and I think that's where my boss gets it from too, because of his Navy experience and sailing experience and stuff like that, like drawing from previous speeches he gave to his unit and stuff like that. And because he's the director of my where I work, he's also a leader, in a different leadership role,
right?
But leader nonetheless.
Yeah, motivation is an interesting thing, like, because everyone is different, of course. But when you got these speakers that motivate, you're like, oh shit, how does this? The interesting how someone's words can motivate you. When, for me personally, like my motivation is based on what my mindset is set on with that thing that I'm trying to do. Like, I'm motivated to do a podcast every time because I love this shit. I love talking to people like you, or just getting your perspective with fights and just talking about the things we talk about. You know what I mean? So that's what motivates me to do it. Keep doing this shit. There's no, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say there's no stopping me from doing what I love doing, because it's constant motivation, a reminder. Why am I doing this? Because I love it. So
it's funny to watch because his both of his daughters to take classes with us, and his oldest daughter. So my nickname is the Giraffe. We've nicknamed her the Baby Giraffe because she is his mini me, but she's kind of like me. She's real, tall and lanky, and so we've been joking with her and calling her Baby Giraffe. But she is just like him. She's probably the most serious 12-year-old I've ever met, and she speaks like a 30-year-old, probably
Wow.
even better than most 30-year-olds.
Right.
She's an old soul, but she will give. We were at a jiu-jitsu tournament, and we have a brother and sister that do class together, and the brother had done a tournament before, but it was his sister's first tournament, and you could tell she was really nervous.
Right.
Well, my Baby Giraffe went over and apparently gave her some big hype speech. That girl went into that tournament and fought her butt off. Like I was so proud of her. Like it was a completely different person or a completely different kid than I see in class. And when like they roll because they don't want to hurt their teammates, so they're not as aggressive. But she went out and she fought her heart out. And it's just funny because, I that was before her dad ever, gave me my hype speeches. But she's out there, doing the same thing with the rest of the kids in the group.
Right.
It's great to see that. And I love their relationship, and they're both,
Yeah.
she's
I just yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say she's his mini me, and
Uh,
it's funny to watch her do things that like that mimic him, but do it without him like telling her to do it. Just
yeah. She
because
just
like,
is based on
just
attention. Right. It just reminds me of like, cause I'm not I love being a hype man myself. I don't get to do that much, but I seem like a calm guy, but I'm hype as shit when I am. And when I used to work at Terror Behind the Walls, I used to be a haunter, scaring people, whatever. That was like my favorite thing to do, whatever. I was motivated to be the best fucking scary person ever. I was all this shit. So when I became an assistant manager, I was like hype as shit. So I became that hype guy that just I would run around the fucking the haunt like a maniac. That was my name, the maniac, whatever, and just hype everybody to fuck up. Just give them energy. I'm not speaking any English, no words. Just come on, like I gotta get it. Like just fucking just passing on this hype ass energy. They're just like, what the fuck? Yeah, let's go. So it's just funny how like motivation could come from all different shapes and sizes. It doesn't matter. And you're talking about the 12-year-old who has that instinct to help other people. Motivation is crazy. I don't know. I'm always fascinated by emotions and the mind and how we uh, do things that lead us to win fights, like how you lead yourself to win fights, and how the one point you saw that your coach's corner was like not as uh, motivated or not motivated. What was it? I'm losing a
you're
word.
just kind of visibly nervous.
Nervous, yeah. You don't want, and I know that you don't want to have that as a coach in the coach's corner. You want to be confident with your fighter, so
Because
that your fighter doesn't get fucked up over it. Yeah.
I had a talk with him afterwards because it's funny because like my other friends, like they with the way that venue worked, he was walking around and he bumped into one of our friends, and like he almost like didn't recognize them because he was too like focused. And we talked about, he goes, I wasn't worried about you winning or losing. He goes, I never worry about that. He goes, I don't care about that. He goes, I worry about you getting hurt. And I'm like, I'm fine. I told him, I was like, next fight, I'm like, I don't care how you feel, just keep it all up. And it was funny because I was talking, my last fight we were able to have 3 people in the corner, and so one of my friends, he actually trains at Balance Northeast, but he's been training with us for years. He came in to be the cut man, so we had a third person, and my coach sat down, we had our other corner, and he turns around, he goes, I think I'm going to be sick. And then they just get back to work, and I'm like, I never knew that until after the fight, so it was funny then. And my friend, when it was the first time that he was in the corner, I could see him in the fight video. I think it's like round 3. I see him, you see him through the cage, and I see him just chewing his gum, like as like you can see like he was nervous and he was just so focused into the fight. And one of our friends like went up and was like, "Good job, coach," at the end of the fight. And he goes, I don't know how you guys do this all the time. He goes, that was rough. He goes, normally I'm in the crowd and, like I'm drinking and like I'm not nervous at that point. He goes, man, like it's funny, like it's not even just like the fighter that might have nerves or excitement and stuff. It's the corner too. And I feel the same way. Like when my kids do jujitsu tournaments, which they're for fun. I
Right.
still get nervous for them. Like I sit there and I get, you know, just as like I guess riled up probably if not more than them
Right.
when they compete because I care about them.
Right.
And I know it's the same thing like with my corners and stuff. Like they care about me. They don't want to see me get hurt.
Yeah.
So like they're just as nervous.
Yeah.
Um,
And someone watching you live, like I haven't been able to watch your fights live because I don't have that subscription, whatever I forget what it's called.
yeah.
But uh, I know, like me watch you, I know you, I've sparred with you, so I know that I would feel something like, come on, let's go, get up. Like I would be into it, more involved than I am with the UFC fighters, because I actually have a connection with some fighters like Donald Cerrone or
Yeah.
Brian Ortega. I got really emotional when Brian Ortega lost to Max Holloway for some reason. I don't even know the guy, and I got so connected with him because I don't know why. I guess because I can relate myself to him in a way. But it's so interesting how like the coach's corner is direct influence or direct connection with the emotions part of it. So that that's why you say that you got to make sure that your coach's corner is uplifted. You got fuck your emotions, get like let
Yeah.
go of all that. You need the fighter needs you
Yeah.
to
And I told
focus.
him like he's like I wasn't nervous. I was like, but you appeared that way. So like
Yeah,
when we were talking about it, so I tease him
it
about it now.
shows. Yeah,
I'm like, I know like you're in your head, you're thinking about other stuff. I'm like, but then I pick up on it. So we were joking about it going into the last fight, and things were fine. And his whole thing is fighting's emotionless. Like you're not happy, you're not sad. It's just it is what it is until you're done.
right. But
But that's how you
yeah,
keep
it's yeah, it's a balance with like a lot of things, man. Because I wrote this down because I was like, it's interesting. Mindset versus mindset. That's what I see with fighters. It's always the mindset versus the other mindset, and then it drops down to the physique and the strategy and the skills that the martial artist has, and the creativity, what they're doing in the moment, blah blah. But the emotion part of it is like it can break down all of that shit if it's not balanced. You know what I mean? So
and
it's just
you can see it on some fighters like when they walk out, especially if it's a fighter that you follow, you watch a lot of their fights, so you start to pick up on certain things like how they walk out. Do they
yes,
walk out confident? Do they like you, because you can see when someone's nervous or excited, you see it in their eyes.
yeah,
um and a lot of times what I'll do if it's a fighter that I've watched before, I love watching the walkouts, not because of the music and the pageantry of it, but to kind of see how they're looking. Do they look hyped up? Do they look nervous? Like, because I think, and then from there I try to figure out, I'm like, okay, now I want to see what their opponent looks like and see
hmm.
how they fight. Like the when Holly Holm fought Amanda Nunes, they both appeared very nervous walking out. Like Amanda Nunes is usually pretty like you can tell in her face she's confident, but I think she was kind of guessing herself on that one. Um, and you could tell the first, I guess, minute or two of that fight, they were both just kind of doing that. Really, they were both feeling out, and then Amanda kind of moved in, and once Amanda got you could tell she got comfortable once she landed a couple of shots, and then the fight was what it was. But it was interesting to see that because when she fought Cyborg, she had a completely different appearance when she walked out. She walked out very confident, and then I mean she knocked her out in what like a minute and a
Yeah,
half or whatever.
that surprised the shit out of me on all
Yeah,
levels.
I was, but I think with all great fighters like a Cyborg who's been fighting for so long, you get a little complacent.
Yeah,
That whole complacency kills kind of a thing.
yeah,
Like you never want to over or underestimate your opponent no matter what. I mean,
yeah,
that's my feeling is I hope
I,
I never get to that point.
yeah. Keep it that way. Keep that mindset always. Never hold that.
Because
I didn't know the word, but yeah,
I hate watching my fights over again. I was recording them to send to someone, and so I'm watching it, and I end up, because I screwed up the recording, so I ended up watching it like 3 or 4 times, and it's just like every time I got more and more aggravated. I'm like, and I know that because I feel that way, that's a good sign. Because the minute I look at a fight and be like, yeah, I did that really well, that means, I'm not looking at like I have improvement. Where when I rewatch my fights, I'm like, you know, in the earlier fights, it's like, oh, you screwed up there. Now it's, well, you could have done this, and that would have, could have changed the fight, kind of a thing. So it's like I'm hard on myself, but I think it's a good thing to have, because it's
Mm.
going to make me want to, evolve and grow as a fighter.
Yeah, everyone is different. So fascinating how everyone has their own way of doing things. Like I was talking to Eddie Abasolo a few episodes ago. That was a few months ago, but
Mm.
he the way he does things, it was fascinating. I was like, yo, everyone is so different. Like, cause I'm into meditation, and I have this. I don't. It's not a secret, but I feel like not a lot of people meditate, but
Mm.
a lot of people do, but not a lot of people meditate and fight. So I feel like it's an advantage that you can have over the opponent if you learn how to meditate and understand what emotions are and blah blah blah. Because then once you go through them, you're like and then you're able to harness particular emotions to work your way, work your favor, instead of being confused about it. Why am I nervous? Why am I nervous? And then you're fucking getting in your head, fucking yourself up.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. I don't. Do you meditate?
No, but
It's like my main
I'll
question
do
now.
yoga, but like I can't say that like I ever get into any sort of like meditative state.
Yeah.
Like I do that more for the recovery purposes,
Mm.
or to add some flexibility and things like that. Um, I guess maybe like when I run, I zone out, which I think you could probably argue is a form of meditation.
Yeah, it is in a way.
But that what you're talking about
It's not the
of
same though. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
of why am I nervous kind of thing, that like self-talk in my second fight, when I said, I got stuck in an armbar the first round, and I in the middle of that, it's like I could have tapped, or I continue to fight and defend. I'm like, you've been here a million, like in my head, I'm like, you've been here a million times.
Mm-hmm.
When you're rolling with anyone else, I'm like, we won't win this round, but we're not gonna, lose the fight. And it was just kind of that self-talk of, slow and steady, keep defending. And I think, you know, being able to do that self-talk, translated into the fight. And because I was able to keep myself calm and not get overexcited with things. And it's that whole, the idea of keeping a straight line of the emotionless fighting. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
have a roller coaster, even good, you get too excited about something
And get
that
clipped.
when something goes wrong, you drop down.
Yeah.
Well, it's not good.
I see a lot of that with fighters. Their emotions, they let it get to them. And like, what's his name? Cody Garbrandt, when he fought
Yeah.
T.J. Dillashaw the second time, I think. I got so upset because I watched Cody's fights and he's so fucking good. And when he fought what's his name? Cruz. What's his first name?
Dominic.
Dominic Cruz. When he fought him, I was like, yo, this fucking crazy, amazing fight. Then when he fights T.J. Dillashaw, it's like, wait, what happened, dude? Like, cause he lost his shit. Like he was just trying to duke it out. And I personally, I know everyone's different. They have their own thing, and I know emotions get to martial artists, and I lack perspective because I haven't gotten to a fight. But I get so fucking pissed when I see fighters lose their fucking focus, when they lose their shit and they just want to duke it out. I hate that because it's like, no, what are you doing? What's her name? You just brought up Cyborg when she lost her shit. No, like come on, like because she was so, like you said, complacent, and she thought she could knock out Amanda Nunez, and it's just fuck, man. When you're a martial artist, you learn these things, but then when you're in the cage, you can forget shit. So it's just it's just as a fan and as a martial artist myself, I just get so upset when I see people lose their shit.
And I think for like my view of it is I feel even judgier because like I'm on both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, if I was in there, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But again, like I come from a different background where, we have a game plan. You don't follow the game plan, you're probably going to definitely lose or get hurt or something.
Right.
And like, I don't think I'll ever be I won't be like a McGregor and be able to, talk smack on people or anything like that. That's not in my
That's not you, yeah.
that's not in my nature. But like even that, if someone wants to do that, like I think it's funny because like I've had opponents who it's funny because they were the ones who always pulled out fights. Um, that wanted to talk smack and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna knock her out, blah, blah, blah. And I just like I think it's funny. Like I think
Also
it's
happened to you. Okay.
yeah, oh yeah, like I had both fights, they were the girls pulled and very bizarre stories for another time.
Yeah, we can
But
do that in the next podcast.
they were both, talking, they talk smack and like, I'm so good, this kind of thing. Like you tell real cocky, even though neither had been in a fight before.
Hmm.
Which I think is even worse. Like between the amateur level and those who've never fought, when they want to be like, oh, well, I'm going to knock someone out. At an amateur level, I don't care which amateur you are, you're a nobody.
Yeah.
You're a nobody until you're at a professional level and you're fighting somebody that
Right.
So I always think it's funny, and even if like you do talk about, like I think it's funny, and I think if you look at like the Holly Holm Rousey fight, Rousey was always starting something with her opponents. Like it's almost like she needed to, and because that's not Holly's thing,
Mm-hmm.
like you could tell by the time they got to weigh-ins, like she tried to get into Holly's face, and Holly was like, I just wanted a drink of water,
Yeah.
like, and I think because they going into that fight, there just wasn't that like talk back and forth, like it messed with her head.
Yeah, it's
and that and Holly, that was such a bad fight for her stylistically, but
yeah, it's an effective tool in terms of getting in someone's head, but it's not. You can't rely on it. McGregor shows you exactly why it is not effective with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz fucked him over because Nate Diaz is like, I don't give a fuck. He'll just get in there anyway. McGregor got on everyone else's head, with what's his name? The Brazilian guy. I'm losing names. I hate that shit. But he knocked him out. The one he knocked out in 6 seconds, 12 seconds. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
He's a great fucking fighter. I can't believe I forgot it. Anyway,
yeah.
You get my point though. He will get in your head and win, but you can't depend on that shit because then you got Nate Diaz or even Khabib, who doesn't give a fuck. Send him location, he's still gonna knock you. He's still gonna take you down and do what he does. So it's just interesting that people rely on that shit talking thing because it's not always effective. You got to be careful with that shit. It's a balance thing. You got to find what works.
You got to be smart about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you've ever read, and I highly suggest it, The Fighter's Mind by Sam Sheridan.
I still haven't read that. This is the second time I heard about that book. Go ahead.
Yeah, I listen to it before every time I fight. That's also another like pre-fight ritual. Mm-hmm. But there's a section in it where he's talking about people like talking smack and stuff. And I can't remember if it was Frank or Ken Shamrock, but one of them was really, really good at talking shit. But they had a method to it. So like, if you tell someone, the example they used, I think, was you tell someone, they punch really slow, they're going to go, no, I don't. Because they're automatically going to get defensive and say that they don't do that.
Insecure.
So he would pick out something that they couldn't say no to. So I think it was Stephen Bonner has like a stutter or something. So while it's personal and mean, he picked something that where he couldn't go, well, no, I don't have that. You can't say no. So like he'd get in the head that way. And they go through different stuff where like people prank call, like whether like fighters are in the hotel, they'll send room service at, weird hours of the night, or they'll call their room just to, disrupt their sleep. But it's interesting, like the ones that are really good at it are the ones that really get into the head. And, it's all about, creating that lack of focus for the other fighter or hyping them up so much that they don't follow their game plan or follow their, their training.
Yeah, this is off subject, but I experience this not every night, but most nights because of the quarantine. I bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare, so I used to be an addict playing that game, and I'm really good at it, but not as good as I used to be. But anyway, I am really good at talking shit. I am good at getting in the heads of the other players because they're like 20-year-olds, whatever. They're young, or they're 12-year-olds. So you hear them talking shit to me because I'll suck. I'm not as good, so I'll suck at it. and oh, Nemerov, you're garbage, blah blah. And then, oh, okay, I'm sitting here drinking, I'm chilling. So once they do that, I turn into this different person where now I'm gonna fucking troll the shit out of you. And then it's funny as shit when I get in their heads and then they're mad when they're the ones that were talking shit about me being garbage. Meanwhile, I'm like, I am sucking, but I won because they're so mad over the other mic. They're screaming. I got them screaming with me because I'm laughing my ass off. They're screaming in anger, and I won. For me, I won, even though I lost technically. You know what I mean? But it's just funny how the mind games, how you can fuck with someone's mindset in that position in terms of fighting. It's different Call of Duty, of course, is a virtual world, but it still has that same effect where I can win against the other person in my way. You know what I mean? Or I can let it affect me and then be insecure and let that person say you suck and then yeah, I do suck, and then I just suck more and then he wins, whatever. But I don't know, it's just an interesting thing that you talk about these things with people talking shit to you during amateur fights, and you're like, you're nobody though, so I don't care. I would love for you to keep that same mindset, by the way. Like when you get the pro status, like just keep that same mindset, man. Like don't let these bitches try to affect you. You know, as soon as they try to do something, I don't mean to call them bitches, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the ones that try to play with your head.
yeah.
Just keep that in mind that it's your fucking mind. All these thoughts that they're trying to share are just thoughts. They don't affect you. Like whatever they can talk about your mom or whatever. You know, like the way McGregor talked about his, even though it was a little far, he went too far talking about his wife and his father and the religion and all that. You just can't, when it comes to fighting, you know this from experience, you can't let those things, those words affect you. You have to build your barrier to let,
And
go ahead.
that's where
You get my
fighting as emotionless comes back into play.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's emotionless. And I think just from different life experiences, I'm like, it takes a lot for me to take something personal. Like, fighting's not personal.
Yeah.
Like, if, like, I have a friend who, I mean, she just had her debut a couple of months ago. I'm like, if we were to fight each other, I'd fight her. I don't care. Like, you know, I'm not going to, you know, I probably won't talk to her during a fight camp, but afterwards, hopefully, you know, we're still friends, that kind of a thing. Like, I'm not friends with my opponents. I'm wish them no ill. If anything, I want them to come into the fight very, you know, healthy so that I can fight them. But it's a lot of it's personal.
Right.
Now, I think it takes a lot for me to take something personally, and I don't think any fighter would ever be able to do that. And I'll probably just laugh it off like, you know, anything else.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, you got to go. You got to take care of business with I think you have a kids class to teach, right?
Yeah, I'm teaching a private lesson for a couple of the kids.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about that because I wanted to talk about the online and the difference between all that. So maybe next time if we can do that before the quarantine is done. But yeah, thank you for being here. You already answered. I had a question about a recent book you recommended, and you said The Fighter's Mind.
Yeah. Fighter's Mind. It's if you listen to the audiobook, they pronounce some of the Brazilian names wrong. You know, bear that in mind. But like I listen to it because I do whenever I listen to do like cardio, I'll listen to an audiobook. So I've listened to it that way, but you can get it print. And I actually have his first book, which is called A Fighter's Heart. Haven't started it yet. That's only in a print version. That's probably why I haven't read it yet. But highly, highly recommend it. I listen to it before, usually like when I'm about a week or two out from a fight is when I start to re-listen to it. And it just kind of gets me in the right mindset and has me ready to go.
Is it prefer to listen to it in audio form or better to read it?
I just like
it's
to
just
listen
preference,
to it.
But yeah.
For me, it's just because I listen to it when I work out.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So then just because if I'm in the car, just my time to be able to actually read is quite limited.
Right. I heard that. I have so much time now to read, so that's different. Hoping to keep this habit though after the quarantine. I'm able to keep reading. Like I love reading now, and I'm like I just finished reading Tribe and all that. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much. But anyway, you train at Delaware Dragon MMA, right? That's what it's called.
Yep.
That's over in where's it at? in Delaware?
It's in Newark, Delaware, about 2 miles up from the University of Delaware.
Yeah, you guys are not opening yet right now, but hopefully soon
Hopefully,
in June.
hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we have to submit a plan to the state. Quick background: there's gyms which are allowed to open and they have their guidance. Martial arts has been a completely different. They lump them into a different category. However, they did release some guidance saying, "Hey, if you can come up with a plan that aligns with everything else, we'll consider it." So
All right. Well,
ours
fingers
is,
crossed on
I
that.
think, pretty, pretty locked down, pretty tight, which was the plan that we were going to do anyways.
Yeah.
They made it easy. So we're going to get that submitted, I think, today, and hopefully they review it in a timely manner.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm worried about is that, they drag their feet on it and then, so
All right.
hopefully cross things start to go back to normalish.
Cool. I wish you a lot of luck on that. I wish you the best on that anyway. I don't like to say luck, but yeah, you get my point.
I got you.
Anyway, do your thing. I appreciate you being on here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You take it easy.
Yeah.